Hey guys, before we get started, I wanted to tell you about a free resource on the Scrivener Solutions website. We all know that consistency builds trust, but somehow getting on that consistency train can be hard. Finding the time, thinking of what to say. Oh my goodness, believe me, I feel your pain. I get it. I know all too well the struggle. Sometimes we make things way too complicated for ourselves. You don't need a complicated plan to become consistent with your content marketing. Working that consistency muscle by using a super simple content plan will give you a big win, and you can build upon that. We have a free resource to help you. Go over to scrivenersolutions.com/checklist and download the super simple strategy to jumpstart consistent content creation checklist. Yes, it's a long name, but all you have to remember is scrivenersolutions.com/checklist, and you can get that instant download. Get started on the right foot and make the commitment to consistency. Other things will follow, but consistency really does matter. Start super simple and download the checklist at scrivenersolutions.com/checklist. All right, now onto the show. Hi, I'm Gayla Scrivener, ex-corporate girl and now work-from-anywhere adventure seeker. Creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle isn't without its challenges, but those challenges certainly don't overshadow all the many benefits. What breaks my heart is seeing folks stuck and unhappy in a career and lifestyle when they want more out of life. I believe that we all have the opportunity to create the life of our dreams and earn a living in fun and creative ways to make our dream lifestyle a reality. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. In this weekly podcast, I share experiences when it comes to growing a lifestyle business through guest interviews, content marketing experience and perspectives, virtual leadership lessons, and I'll even throw in some travel adventures. My hope is through all the interviews, the tips, advice, and personal experience, you'll be inspired and motivated to keep going and creating your dream lifestyle. Life's an adventure. There's no time but the present to live life to the fullest. Hi there, and welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here with me today. Oh my goodness. We're living in some crazy times, aren't we? In my newsfeed, I see this term a lot, the Great Resignation. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it? You know, people in droves are leaving their jobs to find something new. And I'm thinking, well, I did this about 10 years ago. You know, I left my corporate job in pursuit of something better, a different lifestyle. Now, whether you've heard of the term the Great Resignation or not, we're all feeling the effects. All of us. You know, if you're frustrated with your job that you've been in for a long, long time, you're on the verge of something, just starting something new, you're just fed up and it's time to do something new, or you're shifting careers, you're feeling those effects, right? And even if you have to wait longer than normal in line because the business that you're at is short-handed or you're on hold for longer, the turnaround time is just longer because they don't have enough employees to keep up with the demand. Things have changed in the general mindset of the workforce, and it's rippling through our economy. Now, I was reading an Inc. magazine article by Philip Kane, CEO and managing partner of Grace Ocean, and he writes, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, during the months of April, May, and June 2021, a total of 11.5 million workers quit their jobs. Recent studies indicate that it's likely not over. A survey of over 300,000 workers conducted by Microsoft found that 41% are considering quitting. That number jumps to 54% when Gen Z is considered alone. Gallup found that 48% of employees are actively searching for new opportunities. And Persio reported that 38% of those they surveyed plan to make a change in the next 6 months. Now, in the show notes, I'll have a link to that full article because it has some great insights about why people are leaving. Now, I believe that we all have the opportunity to earn a living that gives us the freedom to create whatever lifestyle we imagine for ourselves. We all have a different vision, right? And mine was being able to have the freedom of living and working from anywhere and just not being tied down geographically. I wanted the freedom to meander and explore and see the country on my terms and just see the wonderful sights in a way that most people put off until they retire. And then when they retire, they never get around to doing that. I didn't want to be in that situation. I wanted to live life differently. I also wanted to find the flexibility in my work schedule to where not only travel, that was the fun and that's important to me, but what's even more important to me, I wanted the flexibility in my schedule to be there for life's moments and be there for my family when they needed me the most. Whether it was with my aging parents, whether it's with my daughter and her husband and our grandson, I wanted to be there for life's moments. And it was about 10 years ago when I started my brand new life. I left my corporate life in pursuit of something different. I had been on this career path for over 20 years where I had just grown frustrated and burnt out. I just knew that there was something better, there was something new, and I didn't really necessarily want to work for somebody else. I wanted to create something different. There had to be something better than the office drama that I was experiencing and being restricted to commuting to an office every day and having that restriction of only having so many vacation days and sick time. It was just very constrictive. There had to be something better. So I said goodbye. It was kind of risky. I said goodbye to the corporate life and a steady paycheck in favor of entrepreneurship. It was a scary thing. And I have to say that path has not always been easy. And it's a challenge to create the lifestyle that you want, no matter if you work for someone else or if you work for yourself. Now, at the time when I left, many thought that I was crazy and maybe even lazy because I didn't have that, quote, real job. The mindset, the collective mindset of how the work environment or what it meant to work was, very dated. And then there were folks that really thought that this work from anywhere lifestyle was really cool and wished that they could do it, and they were pretty envious. But they were stuck in how they had to earn a living in a certain way. They were confined in this particular box. Traditional thoughts of how work fit into their lives, quite frankly, was holding them back. At least, that's my opinion. But this pandemic and 2020's lockdown, that had brought about a mass mindset shift of people wanting something different out of life. We slowed down and evaluated our lives. I did this 10 years ago. But now it seems like the population in general is demanding a new way of earning a living. Now, companies everywhere are scrambling to figure out how to cope with this mass exodus of employees. Online influencers have courses and workshops and webinars to teach you how to build your own online business. And not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur, nor do they want to be an entrepreneur and are making career changes. It's just all in this limbo figuring out period. This subject, the Great Resignation, had got my friends and colleagues, Genesis Eakes and Linda Guile, talking last week. We were together, we were talking, and we started to share our perspectives, what we see and what was going on in the market. And we all three of us have our unique perspective of what we're seeing as it affects the marketplace, our clients, and even our friends and family. Now, Genesis is a consultant who serves mission-driven organizations, and she is seeing firsthand effects of what the pandemic has done to companies, culture, and what havoc it has placed on production and productivity. Linda is the founder of TAP, the Talented Alliance of Part-Time Professionals. She sees how thinking of creative work schedules through the lens of part-time employment really has some great solutions in filling gaps for many folks. And my perspective is one from leaving the corporate world and creating a business and having employees and crossing my fingers like, oh, please don't leave me, and creating our culture in this crazy world of ours. We started our conversation last week, just a casual conversation, and then we decided to hit record. Mainly, I wanted to record it because, oh my gosh, Genesis and Linda both have such great insight, and I wanted to refer back to it later. And then as I was listening to the playback, I realized how valuable their insight in this conversation could be for you too. We just let our thoughts just flow and the conversation go. And I decided to share practically the entire discussion with you. But I'm splitting it into 3 parts because it was just jam-packed with a lot of concepts. So today, you'll hear Genesis sharing her perspective of what the overall mood and mindset of the workforce is with organizations she's working with right now. Now, Linda shares great food for thought about both employee mindset shifts and the openness from companies to embrace different work scenarios. I think you'll really enjoy this conversation and this tidbit. The next 2 weeks is going to be jam full of some more concepts. So let's just hop right into today's conversation, shall we?
I think it's important. It's an important discussion, and I'm so glad that we can all be here and show up with our own perspectives, because I think we've all got something valuable to contribute to this discussion. I think one of the biggest things that we are seeing is that employees across industries and around the globe are making a plea. That's basically what we're seeing, right? They are making a plea to be known, to be heard, to be understood, and they are voting, if you will, with their actions in terms of leaving employment that they've had for a long time, maybe switching careers, switching jobs, or choosing not to go back to the workforce, or even jumping into the field of entrepreneurship and wanting to start their own company and seeing if they can make a go of that. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we are seeing when we're hearing terms like the Great Resignation. Really what people are saying is that they have needs that are not getting met in the current structure and in current environment, and they are voting with their feet and making some decisions to go other places. And I think from an employer standpoint, what people are dealing with on the corporate side of things is that there's never been opportunities like there have been right now. The global pandemic has opened up opportunities to work from anywhere. There's opened up opportunities to be remote that were never available before. I think that in this process, employers are in this stage of trying to recreate what's new on the other side of this, and realizing that they can't just treat their employees the way that they've always treated them and expect them to behave in exactly the same way, meaning showing up to work and doing all the things that they've done before. Employees are demanding something different.
When I left my corporate world, I was in the medical industry for 20 years and I was burnt out on the industry itself. So is this like a massive burnt out feeling that there's got to be something different?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what we are hearing, is that the working population is burnt out, if you will. And again, it's one of those things that came up in the pandemic over and over and over again, that reprioritization and that realignment with their values, meaning what is most important to them. Because when we are faced with life and death situations, which we all have been, when it's on the news like it has been, when it's visiting our friends, our family, our relatives, all these people that we care about in our community, our society, we're faced with questions of, am I okay with how my life is? If this is it, am I living the life that I wanted to live? And I think a lot of times those questions in the past have been reserved for that hospital bed or those end of life conversations. And now people have, where it's kind of too late, right? It's a little bit too late to answer that question. Be like, oh man, I wish I would have spent more time with my family, or I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I would have created more balance. I wish I would have done work that was more meaningful. I wish all of those conversations are now more front and center, and people have had space to ask themselves those questions, and they are coming up with all kinds of answers on the other side of that and realigning where they want to be and really have the life that they want to live.
Linda, what's your perspective on this? What have you seen?
I think one of the interesting things for me is, as you talked about the great resignation, what we also are seeing all over, especially social media, not mainstream media in the same way, is you can work from home, you can make all this money, you can, it's not hard, just tap into your passion, and all of a sudden you're going to be making six figures. All three of us know it's not quite that simple, number one. Two, you're still working for someone. And I think when that happens, as someone that is an entrepreneur, I run a business, I run multiple businesses actually, and I'm still working for someone. With us on the part-time side, is part-time becomes kind of that hybrid in some ways. It allows you to take a step back away from the crazy hustle and bustle of a full-time that suddenly is 50 hours a week, and be able to focus in on what you're really good at and work a limited number of hours, but still for someone else. And I was thinking about this recently. We hear about people working remotely or working virtually, and then a virtual assistant. And the difference to me between a part-time professional, whether they're in the office, retail store, etc., or virtual, versus a virtual assistant, is really, who do you work for? If you're a virtual assistant, you might be working for multiple people. You might work through a company like you were running at one point, Gayla, versus the part-time professional that's virtual is still working for that company and is an employee. And what I love about part-time, when it's done well, is it really does let the person say, I'm really good at, say, designing newsletters. I'm really good at the social media, or I like the creative. And it allows them to do it within a framework, but they're not responsible for going out and figuring out how they're going to get paid, finding that next client, wondering, there's nothing secure regardless of who you work for, but you're not responsible for all that quote unquote other stuff that goes along with it. You don't have to do the invoicing for your work. So I feel like, especially with moms, women at home for a long time done more of the at-home stuff, good, bad, or indifferent, but it's kind of how our society's been set up. And I think it became that much more front and center during the pandemic of how much more the women were doing that were moms with their kids and the homeschooling and all of that. And them realizing, again, that's part of what Genesis was talking about, that step of saying, what do I really want? And there's probably parts of it that they're saying, I want to be a part of these day to day, and I want to have time for it. So I think that's where part-time can fit in. And you could even stay with your same company and have a conversation of transitioning. And there are companies that, if you're great for the company, it's worth looking at and saying, what could I still do for, Gayla's company, but a little bit more on the hours that I need, so that they don't lose that brain trust. They don't lose your knowledge, because it's not necessarily always that the company's, I don't like the company. It may be I can't keep that level of intensity back, or I don't want to be back in the office, or whatever it may be. So
I have digital nomad friends who aren't entrepreneurs, but they transitioned from working in the office to living an adventurous life out of a vehicle. Well, how did they do that? They went to their employers, and this is years ago. What their job entailed could be done from remote places. So they made a presentation. They said, hey, can we do this as a trial? It was incremental to where they could be away from the office, but they had to do a little bit of proof that, hey, this type of work can be done. And actually, in many of their circumstances, they were much more efficient because they were able to focus in on their time. They didn't have the distractions of someone coming in to their cubie or their office or whatever. But I also, putting my management hat on, managing a group of 50 medical billers at one time. If somebody was able to work from home and then the other person was not able to, because not everybody is cut out to work remotely, it's just not in them to be efficient off-site. You get some folks that would think, well, why do they get to do that? Or they're never here. They're not working as hard as I am sitting right here in the trenches. Genesis, do you see that with some of the companies that you consult? The dynamic so different now with like a blended work environment.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that is happening, it's a conversation, right? I think that's what we're seeing more than anything is lots of conversations that are being had within companies trying to navigate what is going to work best. How do we do a blended work environment? Do we just do hybrid? Do we do options? Do we create flexibility? What's going to work best for us? And I think that's the best place for any organization to be, is to start with that place of having a good conversation and making sure that everyone's included in that conversation. Because there's a couple of things that I do know. First of all, a lot of employees are touting the efficiency banner, if you will, right? Saying, but I'm more efficient at home. I'm more efficient when I'm by myself. I'm more efficient in this way. Because about 70 to 80% of the population is wired, this kind of more hardwired to work better in a more quiet environment. However, if we base our business practices, and this is from a leadership standpoint, right? Leaders know that you cannot just base your business practices off of what's most efficient. If you are only basing your decisions off of efficiencies, then you could be missing effectiveness that's going to get you to a scalable and thriving position. If you are only working off of how can we be more efficient? How can we be more efficient? What that does is it actually breeds this internal survival mode mentality. And a lot of leaders are trying to get out of, because we've all been in survival mode for about 18 months now, and we're trying to get out of that survival mode. And the problem is that leaders are not always doing a great job of involving their people in those communications and in those dialogues and saying, okay, I hear you that you are more efficient over here, but our only goal is not efficiency. We're also looking to how can we be most effective. And so if we are having a conversation about effectiveness, that's going to open up some dialogue in different ways. So maybe effectiveness can also involve opportunities to be in person and collaborating on some things. Maybe it's having, hey, I can be really efficient for several hours here, here, and here. Can I do that from anywhere I'd like to? And then we can be most effective to be in person or to have some, maybe it's Zoom meetings, maybe it is working, some of it, people are evaluating travel, they're evaluating in-person stuff with clients, all kinds of things. Because I think one of the things, if we are looking at effectiveness, one of the things that we need to look at, and my encouragement to employees, no matter what level or what stage you are in employment, is to make sure you are also keeping an eye on your future. Because just because you are doing the job that you are right now and it's suiting your needs for now, it's probably not the place that you want to be for the rest of your life. If you've got designs on growing, if you've got designs on a promotion, if you've got designs on wanting to be somewhere else in the future, you've also got to be having an eye towards how can I effectively build relationships so I can be networking within my company, even outside the company. How can I position myself? How can I keep learning and growing? How can I be in that position so I can be effective for the long term, not just efficient for right now?
There's two things, and I have a question for you for one of them. But I think when I think of someone that wants to transition from full-time to part-time, it's those connections that they have you can teach people how to do certain tasks, but connections and really deep trust is built over time. And I think that's such an important piece of whether you want to stay with that company, you want to move somewhere else. But if you want to stay with that company and you build on it from the point of the connections that you have, the trust that you've built, that they understand what you're bringing to the table, you need to articulate it, but both of it, I think that's so important.
Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I do hope this insight is helping you with your journey of what you really want to do to get the most out of your life. How are you balancing work and family and your goals, and what is your work-life balance? We all must earn a living to reach and obtain whatever dreams we may have for ourselves. Whether you're a business owner or an employee, work environments are changing right now, and we're all just figuring it out and adapting so that we can all prosper. Be sure to scroll down there in the show notes, because I have links to some great resources that may help you out. Plus, you can stay connected with both Linda and Genesis. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the show so that you'll be notified when the next episode publishes, which is next week. It'll get notified. You can listen to it right away. But next week, you're going to hear Genesis explain what she means by companies become overdrawn with their team's relationship accounts, causing a revolt in ranks. It's quite interesting. I love that perspective. And Linda reminds us that whether we're a W-2 employee or not, or we work on our own, we all have bosses. We need to remember that. And you don't want to miss what they have to say. So, thanks for listening. And until next time, have a fantastic week.